Hello everybody, let me know if you can hear me. So today, the title of the video or live stream probably explains it, but Taiki goes risk on. I've been risk on for the past many weeks, but I bought the dip, right? I'm a man of my word. We'll see if I get wrecked. Probably will get wrecked, but I'll talk about my reasoning, right, and my thought process, and I'll talk about fundamentals update. So the three coins that I've highlighted as my higher conviction plays since June has been FXS, GMX, and XMON. So I'll talk about why I still like these tokens, these projects, and going over the fundamentals, right? These projects are still shipping. Yeah, it's a bear market. People are depressed and sad, but they're still trying to create moats. I really like what they're doing, and I'll share my findings and my research, and then we can do the Q&A. And yeah, before I do this, I'll do some quick Q&A for anyone that has any questions. But while I wait for those questions to populate, let's talk about this. So I saw this on Twitter. I thought it was pretty interesting. So the blue chart is the Ethereum median transaction fees. So it's like the median transaction fees on any particular day. And there's not really that much correlation with regards to price. Obviously, spikes are either when the markets are bullish, people are fighting with each other to get transactions through, or there are spikes when price goes down in a straight line because people are getting liquidated and bots are trying to liquidate positions on Aave, Compound Maker, etc. And I saw this chart posted by Mr. A/B Testing Alpha, and he kind of overlaid both the number of Ethereum transactions as well as the Ethereum transaction gas price, and he kind of overlaid what really led the markets to actually bottom and enter at least a temporary or sustainable bull phase. So obviously late 2020 to mid 2021 we had a DeFi run, right, where gas went from down here to spiked up to here. In the 2021 summer bear market, the 3-month bear market, it was also down here, and then it was catalyzed by people speculating on NFTs. I wasn't really part of the NFT market back then. I'm still not really a part of the NFT markets, but I'm trying to expand the sectors that I'm covering, right? I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole myself as like a pure DeFi/farming guy. I'm trying to be like a holistic crypto person, right? And I'm trying to get into NFTs more because during the NFT bull market, right, we had two phases of like crazy euphoria. I really couldn't really get into it just because I really didn't understand it. It's one of those sectors where I'm generally bullish NFTs as a sector if you have like a 5-year time horizon, but I don't really have an edge, right, identifying NFTs. But coming out of the bear market, we had Avalanche go crazy, Forks and Ohm go crazy, and then NFTs go crazy, which led to gas fees spiking up. And now if you look at this chart, it's kind of sad, right, because the median gas fees is lower than what it was back in the summer of 2021. I guess for good reason, right? Everyone's like super sad. People have left the space. And maybe I'm trying to be a hopium dealer, right? You click on Taiki videos, I'm dealing out hopium, because there's so much doom posting everywhere, right? Part of it's justified, but let's try to look at what good could potentially happen. So potentially NFTs could be something that could catalyze more on-chain activity. We had this guy buy pudgy penguins for 400 Ether. NFT activity, looking good, right? Not actually, right? Not actually. And we've seen things like this do really well. I don't really know what the hell these things are. You have crypto dick butts. We had the frogs or the toads, the punks with the butts, with the dicks. And I don't even know how many. What are the royalties here? Yeah, and traders are happily paying 4.4% to the founder, just so the founders can get rich and whatever. But maybe NFTs, probably not, right? NFT trading volume is abysmal, but just wanted to share that. Let's see if there's any questions. I don't understand. Okay, I'm sorry, right? But DeFi Kingdom, every live stream, someone asks me about DeFi Kingdoms, but DeFi Kingdoms, come on. I'm not excited about DeFi Kingdoms. Yes, I'll cover FraxETH, FraxLend, and FraxSwap. I know DeFi Kingdoms moved to Clayton, right? Which is not even an EVM chain, so I'm not really sure what the hell that's about. I don't know, maybe, yeah, who knows, right? But I don't know, like, I guess people just associate me with the jewel, which I guess is reasonable. And I guess in the future, I'll try to distance myself away from like more individual projects. Let's see. How are you preparing for Arbitrum Odyssey? I'm going to wait for Nitro to ship on the 31st. And then I'll do the Arbitrum Odyssey, obviously. There's nothing to, like, how can you prepare for Arbitrum Odyssey? You just wait for it. Is a hot dog a sandwich or a taco? It's a sandwich. It's more of a sandwich than a taco. I'm not going to use Polygon. That chain is not that great, in my opinion. Okay, I mean, these questions are... okay, let's just talk about the presentation. Here. Right. So let's talk about it. It's probably take 20 minutes maybe. So maybe I'll pause in between, answer some questions, but generally I'll just like go through everything, go over why I'm buying these tokens despite people saying that I'm an idiot, and probably they're gonna be right. I mean, I'm often very wrong, so chances are I'm gonna lose money, and you know I don't want people to get wrecked. So you know, maybe you can like live vicariously through me and lash at me when price goes down, right? But no, let's go over my reasoning. Not financial advice. I'm literally some dude on the internet. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I used to hold UST, right? So yeah, let's talk about Taiki going risk on. So you know, I've been pretty consistent with my commentary, right? As in, I think there was crypto capitulation in June. We had 3 arrows blow up, Celsius blow up, which led to other entities blowing up, which led to a mass capitulation event. And for the crypto markets to go much lower, I think there has to be a new shock to the markets, which I don't really see coming anytime soon. Maybe Ethereum merge going like not as expected might, you know, nuke prices, but I think that's relatively unlikely. I know there's Mt. Gox tokens, Bitcoin unlocking late this month, but you know that schedule hasn't really been publicized, so I have like no idea what's going on there. But you know, the idea is that I think the stock market has bottomed, and if the stock market has bottomed, and if they can just stabilize, I'm not saying it has to go up only, but if it can just go sideways from here, I do think that because crypto has capitulated a lot harder than equities, I think crypto can outperform, at least for the strong, fundamentally driven projects, right? Not all crypto will outperform, right? Some projects are literally going to go to zero because the founders have left, right? And the community is going to, you know, like the community is like whatever. But there are teams shipping. There are teams that are building competitive moats. There are teams that are finding product market fit, and that's where the majority of my time has been focused on. I think people have gotten complacent. You know how similar to how, you know, in bull markets, people get complacent on the upside, you know, myself included, right? I got complacent. I think also people get complacent when price goes down. I think people just assume that the crypto markets aren't going to come back for like 2 years, so they stop doing research. But I think that's incorrect. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe they are correct, right? And the people that leave crypto and come back in 2 years are going to be in a much better financial position and mental health position than like myself right now, because I am like doing research, looking for things that are exciting. But generally, you know, like I don't want to remain complacent. I'm going to keep grinding. You know, like I'm just going to keep working. I feel like there's less competition when it comes to. I mean, there's like less money around in general, so maybe like, you know, it kind of evens out. But there's less competition in the terms of, you know, there's so many interesting opportunities out there, but people aren't capitalizing on it, looking at it just because, you know, they just think, you know, Ethereum is going to go to like $500 or something. So on August 10th, I made an argument on why equity is a bottom and therefore why crypto can do well. And then 17th, I said that no, I think the bottom is likely in for crypto and equities, and I'll be buying any meaningful dips, and I'll also hedge by shorting Avalanche. Via GLP, right? Borrow AVAX, buy GLP. Hedge there. And with the altcoins that I'm buying, generally I have a longer term time horizon. Because I'm more driven on focus on fundamentals. Like I'm not like, for example, Frax. Like I didn't buy Frax below $5 to sell at like $8, right? That doesn't really make any sense for me. I'm more so trying to, wait for the team to ship, wait for the markets to come back, and hopefully my conviction will be vindicated. Okay, so I said that I'll be buying any meaningful dips, and I am a man of my word, right? And I'm not like those crypto influencers with those hot dog faces saying, I bought the dip with $10 worth of Bitcoin or something, right? like for me, right, for my own personal capital, right, I am putting in size, right. On Friday, I bought more XMON. On Saturday, I bought more XMON. And then yesterday, I bought some DPX. XMON, I think that it's generally underowned and misunderstood. I think it's pretty ironic that I think Sudoswap is going to be a project that's really going to shake up the NFT sector, yet NFT people don't understand it. And as long as that's the case, I'm going to just go along with my own personal bias, which, is probably wrong, that, it's generally underowned. I've been listening to, and I can go on a rant about NFT people in general, but I've been listening to NFT podcasts, like dozens of them, and none of them understand Sudoswap. They just view it as this thing with 0% creator royalties, but they don't really understand the technological innovation and advantages that customizable curves present, and how it can actually improve and grow the pie of the NFT sector. So, that's kind of my bias. And then Dopex, it's a questionable decision on my part. I don't want people to be hyped up over it. I'm probably going to lose money on this, but I'm trying to position myself for Arbitrum Odyssey, Arbitrum Nitro, potentially the Arbitrum token dropping maybe late Q4, early Q1. Risky momentum play with the shortest term time horizon, right? Dopex is my least conviction bet out of everything I own, right? So don't be excited. I'm probably going to lose money on this. And to be honest, I don't really know what the average sentiment of my viewers, I don't know what they think of me. I don't really know how bullish they are, how bearish they are. I've done some polling, and just looking through social media and whatnot, I'm sure that most people are bearish, and they have good reasons to be bearish, and I don't fault anyone for being bearish, right? It's just a market. There are bulls, there are bears, and at the end of the day, the market is gonna determine who's right, who's wrong. But don't just look at my convictions and say that, I'm going to copy trade Taiki, for whatever reason, and just buy a bunch of these tokens. Just use me as a resource, right? I don't want, I'm not managing your capital, right? You're literally the one clicking your buttons. I'm not clicking your buttons for you. So, just make your decisions. And maybe, the interpretation that I want people to have is that Taiki is pretty optimistic on both Arbitrum and XMON. So maybe if I wanted to look into emerging ecosystems or NFTs or just DeFi projects in general, maybe Arbitrum and projects that launch on Sudoswap is going to be the place where I should look. I want people to have that mindset instead of saying I'm going to buy it because Taiki said so. I don't think anyone's doing that, but I just don't want I just don't like it when people copy trade me. So because then I get blamed when things go down, because at the end of the day, I have no idea what's going to happen, right? I have my own views on the markets. I have my own views of what I think will happen in the next in the next couple of quarters, and I'm trying to position myself for that. But I'm often wrong, right? I held UST, or I didn't hold UST to zero, but I thought UST was fine, right? So I have no idea what I'm talking about. Also, for anyone lower risk tolerance, I think GLP and tricrypto is a really good way to add risk to your portfolio, but also hedge. You can borrow Ether, Avalanche, whatever in a money market, and then buy GLP, for example, and then you're hedged to the downside. That Avalanche hedge has actually been printing because XMON has been going up, and I've been hedging that with Avalanche short or hedge, and Avalanche has been underperforming Bitcoin and Ether. So, I've been making money on my XMON long, and I've been making money on my Avalanche hedge. But we'll see, right? You never know. And I feel I'll probably be one of the few public figures that are actually bullish on markets right now. And I'll go over why I'm relatively bullish. And hopefully I'm not wrong, right? For my own personal sake. But if you go on social media, everyone is sharing these charts of oil is bottoming, right? Strategic reserves. The government is gonna stop releasing strategic reserves, and then they're trying to cross-reference 20 different indicators and macro charts. But to be honest, what is the edge for there, right? What are the edge? What edge do you have? Cross-referencing 20 charts and then figuring out whether the markets have bottomed or not. I don't necessarily have that edge, right? Even earlier this year, I got caught with my pants down, and I don't really have an edge in macro. But where I think I do have an edge is understanding how crypto people think, understanding narratives that emerge, understanding the fundamentals with DeFi, and I'm trying to get into NFTs more too. But I'm still a DeFi person, so NFT market I'm still less aware of in terms of what kind of projects do well and whatnot. But I'm going to focus on a few things that I do think I have an edge in, and indicators and stuff that really helped me go risk on in 2020 when everyone was bearish. And that's sentiment, market breadth, and leading inflation indicators. I'm not going to bore you with macro stuff because that's not the point of this channel, right? There are 50 other crypto channels that talk about macro and 100 other macro channels that you can listen to. I'm going to focus on crypto. I'm going to focus on the fundamentals and the things that actually excite me. Yeah. And, I think, given where we are in the markets, I think we're at the phase where the market will actually value fundamentals as we approach the end of the year. And if you take the next couple of days, I have no idea what's going to happen. And there's going to be a bunch of noise to the upside, to the downside, whatever. But I'm taking more of a longer term time horizon approach with the crypto. If you think about, people that have made it in crypto or are super successful in crypto, it's the types of people that held conviction of projects in a bear market and just tracked the fundamentals and held it all the way through on the upside. It's not the type of people that kept flipping Ether 20% to the upside, 20% to the downside. Of course, you can make a lot of money doing that if you are good at it, but chances are what are the odds that you can make a lot of money trading? I think it's very, very unlikely, statistically, even for myself too. So I think people have gone complacent, not doing fundamental analysis, and I think that's where my edge is. So I'm going to keep exploiting that. And that's my perceived edge. I'm not sure if it's actually my edge, but my perceived edge. So let's talk about FXS, GMX, and XMON in that order, and then I can answer any questions about, hopefully not about DeFi kingdoms, right? Let's stop talking about DeFi kingdoms. FXS, so frxETH and FraxLend, and also Fraxswap, but primarily these two projects. So Frax has recently launched this frxETH pool on Curve, right? So this is Ether to frxETher. The TVL is pretty low right now. I took this screenshot, I found this screenshot a week ago, so I'm not really sure what the actual TVL is, and I don't really expect this to get that much adoption in the near term. But frxETH is similar to staked ETH by Lido. It's a liquid staking derivative of Ether, and Frax is trying to get into that game. And Sam Kazemi, the founder of Frax, and his team has mentioned that they want to build this thing called the Trinity, is what they call it. This whole DeFi infrastructure system centered around their native stablecoin Frax, with an AMM, their niche AMM called FraxSwap, FraxLend, lending protocol, and also Ethereum staking, right? And they're trying to build this all-in-one product. Some will succeed, some won't succeed, and trying to really create utility for their stablecoin Frax, which I think is really, really important. I'll link. After this video uploads, I'll link it in the description of the person that took these notes. These are not my notes, but Sam has been on multiple podcasts, Twitter Spaces, and this person was kind enough to take notes. But let's talk about these three products: frxETH, FraxSwap, and FraxLend one by one, and talk about what could be what's kind of exciting here. So frxETH, right, is the liquid staking derivative for Ether. So they're trying to compete with Lido, StakeWise, and Rocket Pool. And to be honest, I don't necessarily think that it's going to beat out Lido, right? I think Lido has a monopoly, and in the best case scenario, maybe there's going to be a duopoly where Lido maybe has 50% of the market share, centralized exchanges maybe have 30% market share, and then the rest, the other 20% is being spread by other liquid staking derivative protocols. But I think frxETH is exciting because in the future, Frax can be backed by frxETH, right? Ether that's earning interest or whatever the interest rate ends up being. And also, if frxETH can be used as collateral to borrow Frax at a fixed interest rate, that could gain more, that could create more demand to hold frxETH. And because Frax is such a large owner of Convex, right, in the Convex wars, curve wars, whatever you want to call it, I think they will redirect some of the CRV emissions towards the frxETH to ETH pool, which will naturally increase the demand for frxETH, right? So more people would want to stake ETH with Frax. So the Frax team is running the validator nodes, so it's not that decentralized, right? And nothing is fully decentralized anyways, but it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, so next is Fraxswap. So, Fraxswap I'm less interested in. It's a super niche AMM. It's generally used by the protocol itself to TWAP into their own token. So if you remember back in May or June, probably June, Frax announced that they're going to be initiating a $20 million buyback program of their FXS token. And they're going to be doing this over a long period of time using Fraxswap. So I think right now the Frax team, actually when I last checked, there was no buyback, so I don't know what's going on there. But I think roughly, right, there's roughly a $2 million buyback happening for FXS every single month. So it's going to be a really, really slow buyback program. It's not meant to pump the price, right? It's, like who cares about $70,000 ish with the buy pressure per day. But there's just, I feel like Sam is doing this just so that they can advertise to other DAOs saying that, hey, if you ever want to buy back your own token as a DAO, instead of, putting in large wicks and green candles, right, executing one big, market order for your own particular governance token, you can implement, your buyback program via Fraxswap and just slowly buy back your token over time. Corporate share buybacks is really prevalent in the stock market, right? Apple buys back a bunch of their stock every single quarter. So maybe this is where, Frax is trying to, gain some market share. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a main revenue driver for Frax, but it's a primitive and it's just interesting to begin with. The last thing that is the most exciting for me personally is FraxLend. And Sam has mentioned in Twitter Spaces and podcasts that there is overwhelming demand by DAOs and protocols to use FraxLend to borrow against their collateral, whatever it may be, right? It might be against their own governance token, or it might be against their treasury. And what Sam said here is that it's going to be similar to Abracadabra/Sushi, where you create these isolated lending pools, and each DAO, right, that wants to utilize FraxLend to borrow Frax against their collateral, can create custom term sheets. So for example, maybe Lido wants to borrow against their collateral because they hold a bunch of Ether, but they don't really want to sell it. And what they can do is negotiate with Frax and say that, hey, I'll deposit $50 million worth of Ether, and I want to be able to borrow Frax at a fixed 2% interest rate, something like along those lines. And, which could be pretty interesting, right? Which should be able to increase the velocity of Frax in DeFi. Because if a protocol borrows Frax against their collateral, maybe they use Frax to pay their employees, pay other projects, or maybe they just swap Frax into USDC and use that to pay people, which will result in more people using FraxVP, right, as the base pool on Curve, which will increase transaction fees and transaction revenues for LP providers. And one thing about the dollar system and why there's so much demand for dollars, and this is part of Brett Johnson's dollar milkshake theory, is that there's so much debt denominated in USD that if people are scared about the economy and the world and whatnot, people will be forced to buy back dollars because their debt is denominated in dollars. So maybe that's what they're going for. If a bunch of protocols are borrowing Frax against their collateral and a bunch of debt is denominated in Frax, maybe that can increase demand for Frax, and Frax can actually be used as money in the crypto economy. To be honest, when people buy Frax, no one is necessarily buying Frax to hold in their wallet, right? I hold USDC, Tether, etc. in my wallet, right? Just sitting there sometimes if I don't see any interesting stablecoin farms, and I kind of consider it as my safe haven asset, I guess. But if I do end up buying Frax, I'm not going to let it sit in my wallet, right? The only reason to buy Frax is to farm with it because Frax is higher risk technically. So it remains to be seen what the effects will be. I heard this thing's going to launch end of month. Not confirmed. I have no idea. So, and I think I saw this, right? So if you want to just follow one Twitter account, right, Sam Casbot is really interesting because Frax doesn't have a marketing team, right? All they have are devs, and they only ship products once they're ready, right? They don't try to hype things up. And they said on August 19th, FraxLend is imminent. FraxETH will most likely come a few weeks after FraxLend. And if you just think rationally about Frax and FraxETH, I feel like the Frax team would want to launch FraxETH before the merge. Maybe they'd rather do it after the merge. I have no idea. But I think maybe FraxLend might come end of month, and then FraxETH can come maybe 2 weeks after, around the merge. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Yeah, so for me, I just choose to hold it. I really like the team. I really think that, when it comes to the, I've often said that I think the only up-only market in crypto is the market cap of stablecoins. And, it's really difficult for retail investors like you and I to gain exposure into Tether or USDC, obviously. So I'm always going to be looking for ways to gain exposure into the stablecoin ecosystem, right? The stablecoin sector, whether my bet on FXS is incorrect or correct. I consider them to be a DeFi infrastructure that gives exposure to a stablecoin, liquid staking derivatives, niche AMM, and the lending market. Unbothered, moisturized, happy, in my lane, focused, flourishing. That's kind of how I view it, and hopefully Sam delivers, and we'll see, right? Probably in like 6 months, I'll figure out if I'm correct or not. But I really like what the team is doing, and yeah, let's keep going. Let's talk about GMX. I think this is like one of the crowd favorites. No one really, like if you like go on Twitter, like everyone's talking about GMX because like, oh, real yield and whatnot, which I'm not really sure how I feel with the whole real yield narrative. But GMX is one of the few tokens that's probably like one of the most fundamentally stronger projects in crypto right now. And I reasonably expect it to at least hit $1 billion in market cap sometime in the future. I'm not making predictions about the near term, just like sometime in the future. And I think GMX has been outperforming recently because there was a proposal 5 days ago on the GMX governance forums about listing GMX on FTX. And obviously the community wants this to happen, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, like FTX listing, pump my bags, let's fucking go. So it's probably gonna pass. I don't know when it's gonna be listed on FTX, but anyone that saw this, I guess, could have front ran people, I guess retail people that only trade on FTX. And if it's more traded on centralized exchanges, right? If FTX can make a more liquid market for GMX, I'm sure that it's gonna be a net positive for the price for GMX at least. There's also this proposal, at least for Arbitrum, to increase the GLP allocation of Frax by 3% and reduce the USDC allocation by 3%, which is definitely interesting. One thing I really like about the Arbitrum ecosystem is that a bunch of these protocols work together. Projects and Optimism, they kind of work in silos, right? Velodrome team, SNX team, they were like fighting over each other. They really like they're like shut the fuck up, right? They had that kind of mentality. But for Arbitrum, I feel like they're trying to create this more coherent ecosystem where if you benefit, I benefit, and projects are building on top of each other. And if GLP has a higher composition of Frax, and if GLP increases in market cap over time, then it's going to increase demand for Frax, which should derive more value for FXS. In terms of volume and fees, up only, right? Actually, not really up only. Cumulative is up only, but it's cumulative, right? It's only up only. But even in a bear market, volumes and fees have remained relatively constant for both Arbitrum and Avalanche's side, which is good to see. And even this week, they posted this today. GLP rates on Arbitrum is 31% Ether, right? So you can hold this basket of currencies, get paid 31% in Ether. Really nice. On on Avalanche's side, 17% in Avalanche, 8% in Escrow GMX. And to be honest, my GMX bag is pretty light, to be honest. But I don't really care because I plan on farming GMX for the next 12 months via GLP. So yeah, I could buy it now, right? It'll probably go higher, but I don't really care for it because I'm not really looking to, buy low, sell high with GMX. It's just something to keep accumulating, keep staking, accumulate those multiplier points, and just farm more that way. And over the course of the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months, I can reasonably like double my current GMX bag. So that's kind of how I view it. It's still a very strong project fundamentally. Team's anonymous, but I think the track record speaks for itself. And with Arbitrum Odyssey, actually let me go back. So in late June, July 4th-ish, in late June, there was Arbitrum Odyssey, right? And then the Arbitrum chain kind of went down. It didn't go down, but the gas fees on Arbitrum exceeded that of Ethereum mainnet, which makes no sense because it's in layer 2. So the Arbitrum team paused Odyssey and said that, we're going to wait to ship Arbitrum Nitro to resume Odyssey. And Arbitrum Nitro is shipping on the 31st, and it's supposed to increase it's supposed to improve the user experience as well as lower transaction fees. So once Arbitrum Nitro ships, maybe in the next week or two, Arbitrum Odyssey can resume in week 2. I'm not sure if it's going to be the schedule. This was a schedule back in June and whatnot that was posted, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the same one. Probably. Who knows? So if Odyssey resumes, then people will bridge to Arbitrum. They're going to use GMX, right? Because I think the requirement was at least deposit $50 in GLP, do a $50 trade on GMX, and you get this NFT, right? It should result in higher usage. I'm not sure if that's going to create for stickier liquidity, right? Because ideally, right, this Odyssey activity can be a way for GMX to like acquire more customers potentially. But who knows, right? I think GMX is like the safest way to play Arbitrum. It's not even like an Arbitrum native play. They're also on Avalanche, but GMX has been the strongest token. It led the markets coming out of June, right? So when the markets bottomed in June, and it's also leading the markets in the past couple of days after Ether had declined by 25% and Bitcoin went down 18%. Okay, so lastly, I'll talk about Sudoswap, and after this section, I'll answer any questions people might have in the chat section, and then we can kind of like, just YOLO it from there. But Sudoswap has definitely been one of my highest conviction plays. I mean, not one, it definitely is my highest conviction play. Like I mentioned earlier, I find it ironic that NFT people don't understand it, though that this is supposed, in my opinion, a project that's really going to shake up this NFT sector. It's got $25 million worth of volume in roughly a month, with no token incentives, generating a bunch of fees. So the platform is generating roughly $125,000 in fees, but the LPs, right? The LPs are making so much money, and that's part of the value proposition of Sudoswap. Volume-wise, right? I don't really expect hockey stick type of growth for Sudoswap volume, just because NFT trading volume is abysmal, right? Like no one's trading NFTs. So like, why am I like even buying this? Like I'm not like buying this because I expect it to pump immediately. This is one of those high growth primitives that I think people are overlooking, because I do think it's going to open up more use cases for the NFT sector, which I will go over later in this presentation slide. Right, so what is this? This is volume, this is fees, right? It's looking all right. These are users, new and total users. So despite the NFT volume not doing that great, it's more people are using it, which I think is only a good sign. It's one of the few protocols where metrics are actually improving. To be honest, my base case is that it's going to plateau at some point just because no one's trading NFTs, but who knows, maybe more projects can launch on Sudoswap, the types of projects that can't be launched on OpenSea because of the whole AMM model, and maybe that can gain more traction, but it remains to be seen. And right now, most projects on Sudoswap, at least the native projects that launch on Sudoswap, are just like like pump and dump Ponzi's, but hopefully that's a sign for better things to come in the coming weeks/months. And even without token incentives, you can't see here, but it's generally oscillating between 5 to 10% of OpenSea volume. So, and this is even before NFT aggregators have been integrated, right? So once Gem and Genie, NFT aggregators, so they're similar to 1inch and Paraswap trading tokens. Once those aggregators integrate Sudo, I feel like it's reasonable to expect more trading volume to happen on Sudoswap, just because people most people aren't aware that Sudoswap exists. They don't really know how to use it. And Sudoswap has only been live for a month, so there's going to be growing pains. It's not going to be hockey stick type growth. You need to wait for the team to ship and whatnot. But I really like the team. I like their ethos, what they're building, and I'm happy to just hold a token and get wrecked or be euphoric. If you want to track my well-being, right, in terms of whether I'm euphoric or depressed, maybe not depressed, or whether I'm euphoric or sad, just look at the price of XMON and you can kind of see my well-being, right? Yeah. And then lastly, I just want to talk about the power of the community. And if you think about community, it's kind of a meme, right? Obviously, Olympus had a strong community, right? Wonderland has a strong community, but communities are only strong when prices are going up. And once price goes down, then everyone's pissed at the founder. Community is a meme, right? Like, you shouldn't buy things because of the community. But I feel like it has it has more merit in a bear market, because for a project token to dump 90% and still have a strong base, right? A community active on Discord, I feel like generally that's a good sign, right? I'd rather invest in a token with a stronger community than a token with, a weaker community, if that makes any sense. And sometimes a stronger community actually can improve the fundamentals of a project, because the community will be screaming loud, waiting for other protocols to integrate them. And one example is Gem. So Gem is an NFT aggregator, and a lot of volume goes through Gem. And Vasa is the founder of Gem, the aggregator. And yesterday or 2 days ago, this person was like, Gem actually integrates Sudoswap, and there was some bug where it wasn't supposed to be launched, but Gem integrated Sudoswap. And then Vasa clarified that, hey, it's going to take at least a couple of weeks to integrate Sudoswap. And his reasoning was, he doesn't want to show preference for Sudoswap, because he doesn't want to anger the other communities for other NFT marketplaces and whatnot. So he wanted to just roll out one update, maybe next month, that integrates all the other updates and just like make one big push for one singular update, just so they can, just so he can remain neutral or whatever, right? But the entire community was like, how does that make any sense? Like, how can you not prioritize Sudoswap if it's generating like 10% of OpenSea volume, right? Like, who cares what the feelings are of projects that are generating like 0.1% of OpenSea volume, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. Vasa, do you really want to take like market share away from Genie, your competitor, right? Genie is the NFT aggregator that got acquired by Uniswap. So, there was so much community outrage. And I mean, this post had like very few engagement, but with the other larger accounts and with the stronger, market-wide community of Sudoswap, Vasa was getting so much shit, right? Like, you just go on Vasa, he says like Sudoswap integration coming soon, and then everyone's like, yo, like, you just hate Sudoswap, right? Like, you're just like, you're weak, bro. Like, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, he just got bashed so hard. And I kind of felt bad for him because, I think Vasa is a great founder. But, this was happening. And then, yesterday he actually blinked. He's like, all right, guys, like, fine. Like, Sudoswap has a bunch of community members, like, consistent of like 5-year-olds, right? Like, you little kids, fine, I'll give you some candy, right? Like, I'll actually integrate Sudoswap before sometime this week because, like, I just can't take it anymore, right? Like, shut up, right? And this is part of the reason why XMON, I think, has appreciated recently, just because, the market has to price this in, right? Once GEM is integrated with Sudo, it should route more trades through Sudo, which should lead to more trading volume on Sudo, which would lead to more LP fees accrued on Sudo, which should incentivize more LPs to provide liquidity on Sudo, which will, cause some reflexive loop in terms of like TVL and trading volume. Maybe, right? Hopium, biased bag holder, full disclosure, right? Obviously, everyone knows that, just laying it out there. So community was pissed, so, he had to pivot, and, the community got what they wanted, right? The power of the community in a bear market. And lastly, there was also this project called the Baby Butterfly Cartel, right? So this is for redacted cartel, right? The hidden hand marketplace for DeFi. So they kind of recently changed their tokenomics. They have this token called revenue locked butterfly. It's similar to Convex, right? You lock up for your butterfly token for 16 weeks and you receive some revenues and whatnot. And the redacted team mentioned that they wanted to turn this RL butterfly position into an NFT and provide liquidity on Sudoswap. So they want to partner with GMX, Dopex, Lido, etc., right? Because GMX has those blueberries, Dopex has those diamond pepes. I don't know what Lido has, but maybe Redacted can be a market maker for NFTs on Sudo. Maybe not. I have no idea actually. This is only a proposal. But they're gonna NFTize their locked positions and then provide liquidity for it on Sudoswap. And actually, I don't have a screenshot here, but it's like this butterfly looking NFT, right? So I have no idea what this means, but it could be interesting, right? Maybe there can be a cross section between DeFi and NFTs, because in DeFi there's a bunch of these V tokens and like locked positions that are illiquid. Maybe over time there can be more liquid wrappers and liquid derivatives of these, I guess, locked token positions. Turn them into NFTs and be an LP on Sudoswap. And I feel like this won't work, but this is something you like to see, right? People are trying to figure things out, and Redacted Cartel, they're definitely in touch with the meta, right? They recently expanded on L2s, both Arbitrum and Optimism, and now they're trying to capitalize on, I guess, the Sudoswap narrative by being an LP / market maker. Who knows if it'll work, but good to see. And so Sudoswap improves on the inefficiencies of the NFT sector, right? It allows for instant liquidity. It improves the liquidity for NFT markets. We had the BendDAO issues, right, where a bunch of Bored Ape Yacht Club positions couldn't get liquidated because there were liquidity constraints. But if Bored Apes had liquidity on Sudoswap, then bots can easily liquidate those BendDAO positions because there's always liquidity. BendDAO could not liquidate those positions because they had to find a buyer for these Bored Apes at the liquidation level. But Sudoswap is going to fix that. Borrowing against their NFTs, I'm not a huge fan of the market. I feel like there's not that much demand there. But it's like the second order effect of the problems that Sudoswap fixes. at the end of the day, Sudoswap is not a marketplace that just gets rid of royalty fees. That's just like one feature. The thing that's more exciting is the fact that Sudoswap allows for non-fungible tokens to be traded like fungible tokens, right? There's a typo there, but because there's no moat in getting rid of royalty fees, right? Because if that's your only selling point, then any other marketplace can just say the same thing, right? Like we'll cut out royalty fees, and there's no competitive moat. But I think the Sudoswap community is strong. I think the technology is there. It has a strong community, and I look forward to the developments. And I'm not gonna endorse this, right? I have no money in this. I just want to share this as a potential use case and really, hopefully, get people to think about what's the potential of what Sudoswap can provide. So there was this product called Pseudo Inu. I feel like they were targeting me, right? Because I'm a proud and loving owner of a pug, and it's this NFT project where it's like a pug, right? And they had this farming liquidity mining incentive where you could be a liquidity provider for this NFT, right? So you can take Pseudo Inu, pair with Ether, provide liquidity on Sudoswap, and then wrap that position and then stake that LP token on this website, and then farm their token called Snack. Right, pair your Pseudo Inu NFT with Ether and stake the LP token to earn snacks. So it's okay. I'm not endorsing this, right? I own zero. It's probably gonna go to zero, to be honest. Who knows, right? Maybe I'm incorrect, and Pseudo Inu goes to the moon. But the point isn't that Pseudo Inu is amazing. But the point is, think about what new use cases that this could create, right? Because Sudoswap is a primitive that's gonna allow for liquidity mining incentives, right? Emissions for NFT projects, right? So NFT projects in the past, if you think about the Ape token, right? Yuga Labs airdropped Ape to Bored Ape Yacht Club holders, and people sold it off and whatnot. But what if instead of airdropping tokens to existing NFT holders, what if you just do liquidity mining incentives where you reward people that are taking on the risk being an LP by giving them tokens, right? You align incentives that way. I have no idea what's going to end up coming out of this. Chances are, I feel like the most likely scenario is the first 50 projects that do this are just going to go to zero, and the LPs get wrecked, or the token goes to zero. And then at some point, maybe the 55th project ends up figuring something with VE mechanics and other incentive mechanisms to really, create a strong community of LPs, NFT holders, and maybe some token value accrual that's gonna create more exciting or create more excitement into this NFT ecosystem, and hopefully bring more on-chain activity and demand, at least for Ethereum. And also I guess the benefit and the disadvantages of having liquid NFTs is that NFTs tend to be super illiquid, right? Someone buys sweeps the floor, right? And the floor goes up by 15% or whatever. And that's because NFTs are super illiquid. But with liquid markets, and you can kind of notice this in AMMs and token swaps. But if you trade tokens where there's deep liquidity, even big buys don't move the price that much, right? And also big sells don't move the price that much. And maybe people like that because it's going to create for more efficient market pricing for NFTs and tokens. But maybe people will dislike that for NFTs and Sudoswap because prices won't move that much. For example, Sudonauts, they were the first to do protocol and liquidity and whatnot for NFTs. But the liquidity is so thick that price isn't moving, right? And maybe that's not good. But who knows? We're at this phase of experimentation, and it's only been live for a month, so. It's you have to wait for the team to make improvements, for teams to adapt, find whatever model that works. But liquidity is really important. I think deeper liquidity for tokens is going to be the future for both fungible and non-fungible tokens, and that's my bias. But I'm not an NFT expert whatsoever. Yeah, so that's it could be good. And also Owen in this Pseudonauts Telegram chat mentioned that LBP curves are coming for NFTs. And this is one of the reasons I'm so positive on this, right? Because things like this is really going to expand or improve on the inefficiencies of the NFT ecosystem. But NFT people don't get it, right? And that's kind of the bull case. And if you don't know what LBP curves are, it's kind of like these balancer liquidity bootstrapping pools where, let's say you're launching a token and the team thinks that the fair market value for their token is $1. So they can create this curve where maybe the token starts at $2 and ends at 20 cents. over a 24-hour time period, and if people buy it, then the price goes up, and maybe the ending price ends up being like 30 cents. And this has been adopted by more token projects because it allows for more efficient market pricing, right? Because one of the reasons people don't like bots in crypto, right, or I guess on the blockchain, is because whenever there's like this new NFT mint or token mint or token generation event, bots will just like win over, right? It'll just be retail traders like refreshing their pages and like trying to like click approvals and having their transactions not go through. But this kind of fixes that issue, because if bots do form on retail and like buy immediately, then retail can just wait for the token price to go down, and over the 24-hour time period, there will be a fair market price where people can there can be like better price discovery for a particular token without having like bots ruin it for them. And I think one of the problems in the NFT sector is that highly anticipated mints are often botted, right? Like we saw this with Moonbirds, we saw this with maybe not Moonbirds, but like those similar projects, like other side lands, right? Like Ethereum gas went to like 1,000 because it was like a first come first serve basis, and everyone was trying to get their transactions through, and at the end of the day, like bots won out, right? And that's because, yeah, like I mentioned, it was a first come first serve basis, and it's often there's been studies on this, and NFT projects usually misprice their NFT mints, which causes for unfair minting experiences. There was a study done by University of Chicago, Anthony Zhang. You can view this video on the Stanford Blockchain Club channel, right? Go Bears, screw the trees and whatever. But they make a really good video, right? Even despite being Stanford, and they figured out that primary market mints are pretty bimodal. Either projects mint out their entire tokens, or projects tend to not mint out at all. So the projects that do mint out, it just means that the team that did the mint didn't price their NFT correctly, right? Because it was way too cheap, right? Like the bots took it all. But with LBP curves, I feel like teams for example, like with the other side lands, I forgot what the mint price was, like maybe 1 Ether, right? But maybe the team could have said, we'll start the mint price at 5 Ether, and then over the next 24 hours, it'll go down to 0.5. So, maybe that could have been a better way for Yuga Labs to create more efficient price discovery for their NFTs without destroying retail and whatnot, right? Cool. Yeah. LBP curves, super bullish. I'm not really sure when they're shipping this, probably like next year, to be honest. It's not their priority. And it also allows retail to play at a fairer ground instead of competing with bots on gas. And also, right, like if you think about the number of NFT traders, most of them lose money, right, because of royalties, because these projects charge like 5%, 7% royalties. And I feel like that's unfair in the grand scheme of things. And Sudoswap only affects these 10K PFP projects, right, where most people trade them as not fungible tokens. It doesn't affect one-on-one art projects. So, one-on-one art creators, right, they can charge 10% royalties. Like, I don't really care, right? That's not the market that Sudoswap is going for. Sudoswap is going for these high mint projects, these 10K PFP projects, and I feel like they are fixing these issues. I think there's product market fit, as seen by the metrics. And until the NFT people understand it, I will continue to hold, and hopefully I do not get wrecked. Yeah, I view this as a new growth play that's going to allow for new games to be played on chain. For example, right, LBP curves. I'm sure more projects in the future will launch via Sudoswap. Liquidity mining incentives. I'm sure more projects will use that to, I don't know, like create more hype, or I don't know, like deeper liquidity, right? Who knows? And we'll see, right? We'll see. Like I said, I'm not buying these things to sell like 2 days from now. I'm, accumulating them because I understand the fundamentals, and hopefully in the coming weeks, coming months, I get vindicated, right? Or I get wrecked, but who knows? Okay, that's the end of the presentation. Let's see if there are any questions. Yeah. Let's see, I'll go from the top. So let's see. Arbitrum was a major letdown, just like every other L2. I don't necessarily think so. Arbitrum does not have a token, yet it has almost $1 billion with a TVL. And once Arbitrum drops token, I expect them to be top 5 in TVL. Maybe by end of year, but it kind of depends on the token. But Arbitrum, like Optimism is let down, right? I mean, like I'm not a fan of the Optimism team. But Arbitrum, I think their team is much better. Not to throw shade or anything, right? I mean, it's hard being a dev, so I don't want to make teams feel bad, but just from like a more objective standpoint. CRV USD, yeah, so that's kind of interesting, right? So I've been live for 50 minutes now. Jesus, this took way too long. Okay, I guess this will be a longer live stream. And by the way, timestamps are added on all my other live streams, so you can do that anyways. Let me find this link. This one, I think. I always underestimate how long I take, and people complain that I talk too fast, and I try to get better on that. But like once I get in the moment, right, or once I'm in the groove, I'm like, oh yeah, like yeah, I'm so into it. But I'll try to talk slower. C2TP, the lead dev, bought 1 million tokens, million CRV tokens. So maybe he knows something that I don't, right? Maybe CRV USD is happening sooner than I thought. We'll see. I'm not going to comment on CRV USD because I have no idea what it is. I'm not going to answer any questions on whether something is a good buy or not. You have to make that decision for yourself. And I'm going to ignore all Alt L1 questions just because I've been saying this every single live stream, but Alt L1s, in my opinion, won't come back until Ethereum gas fees are sustainably high, right? Not just a day, right? Not just 2 days, but over the course of a couple of weeks until Ethereum gas fees are, let's say over 50, right? Over a course of, let's say, a month, I don't think there will be much block space demand for Alt L1s. The Avalanche short, yes, is because I can do it with GLP. If GMX was on Phantom, I would much rather short Phantom, but just out of necessity, I have nothing against Avalanche, but just because it's an Alt L1, I'm actually pretty positive on Avalanche over most L1s, but yeah, it's just out of necessity. Bullish DXY, I can't argue against that. Let's see. Doge chain, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, I think someone created a bot where every time a project launches a token on Doge chain, like the bot puts in $50, and I think like the bot aped into like 20 different projects and they all rugged, right? So I feel like Doge chain is like, there's a bunch of rug pulls right now, and also like, sure, like a token might go up 10x, but it's so illiquid that like you can only put like $20 worth of like, right? It's like, sure, like, it might be a good way to pass time, but like you're not gonna make too much money. And if you're bullish on Doge chain, I feel like you should like buy Doge. I'm not buying dog coins. Let's see. This guy is looking to dump on you. Yes, I am always looking to dump on my followers, right? That's the BitBoy way. Let's see. FTX is gonna short GMX once it's listed. Maybe, right? Maybe. Yeah, Stargate is good, right? Like, I feel like people don't really understand how farming works, right? It's like, I've mentioned before that I think farming STG is really good, right? Like I've mentioned that many times, and I've been farming Stargate for like however long, right? And it's like up 2x or whatever. And then everyone's like, oh, like why would you farm STG? The APR is only 6%, right? And then then price goes up, or price goes up 2x, right? And then APR is like 13%. And then everyone's like, oh, Stargate is such a good stablecoin farm. It's paying 13%. Well, you could have like farmed it here and then sold it and realized your stablecoin yields after it pumped, right? Like you have to realize that you're being paid out in this token. So if you expect the token to go up in the future, then you can like farm it and just wait. And then maybe sell immediately, right? If you want to. I sold into it just because I just like wanted to just realize my stablecoin yields. With stablecoin farms, right? Like the yields aren't real until you realize those stablecoin yields. So just my tip. I am generally bullish SDG though over like the next 12 months, but I just wanted to realize my stable yields. What the hell? Okay, hold up. Let's see. What are these questions? Let's see. I mean, GMX has been audited by ABDK, and ABDK audited Uniswap V3. ABDK also audited Uniswap V3. I think ABDK is generally a well-respected auditing firm. I mean, obviously there's like, there could be exploits and whatever, but I think that's fine, to be honest. I am not liquidity mining Canto just because it's so illiquid. Who knows? I mean, it's doing well. There's a bunch of TVL. Maybe I should farm it. Who knows? With my Dopex, I'm farming Plutus. Still bullish CVX? Yes. This Pepe guy, all he does is ask CRV/CVX questions, right? I admire your bullishness and conviction, right? So CVX is definitely one of those tokens with a strong community. I just like don't talk about it just because I haven't made a video on it, and like it's like a bet on CVX is like a bet on FXS, and I'm more bullish FXS than CVX. I just like bought CVX as a way to gain exposure into the curve ecosystem. Is Arbitrum overhyped? I don't think so. I think that ecosystem is much better than Optimism by like multiple factors. The token will probably dump like once they airdrop it, right? I mean, that's what happens to every other airdrop. But I think Arbitrum should deserve a higher market cap than Optimism. I think Gains is cool, but I'd rather focus on GMX. Kuji is interesting too. I mean, they have this over-collateralized stablecoin, USK. They have this central limit order book. One of the few projects that got wrecked by Terra crashing, but came back. But it's not really in my radar. Spell is still, Abracadabra is still a pretty good project, but I don't think the token will do well, so not too interested there. Am I crazy for thinking accumulating and staking Axie now is a no-brainer? Probably crazy, but I don't know. Do you like Radiant on Arbitrum? No, it's a money market token. Thinking about dropping the price? Unfortunately, no, for Discord. Deep dive on Traderjoe V2 AMM. If you want to understand liquidity books, just watch my Sudoswap video. I spent like the first 20 minutes going over what Uniswap V3 is. So, just look at that. I kind of go over like why, concentrated liquidity is much better than this XY equals K model. And you kind of have to understand that first in order for you to understand Sudoswap. So I kind of did like the background there. But I do like the Traderjoe team. I do like their NFTs too, right? The JPEGs. But there's no block space demand for Avalanche, right? So yeah, it's whatever. Everyone's talking about Dogechain, right? I guess that's how it is. Farming on Phantom, no. Okay, that's about it for the questions. I think that's a, hold up, do I have any other? Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions. I think Dopex is cool, but they still have a lot to prove, right? I own the token, but I'm not showing, I'm not too excited for it, right? I wanted 10% expectations because, $32 million TVL, right? They have some fundamental issues. They have this supply and demand problem where the options that they create, they're selling out pretty instantly, right? The straddles are selling out pretty quickly, but there's not enough people writing these options. And I don't expect retail traders like you and I to write options, so they need to onboard market makers. So until market makers feel comfortable with the risks of writing options on Dopex, I feel like the TVL here is going to continue to be pretty low, but I do like their growth prospects. Strong team, strong community. I think they're fine. But way less conviction there. Way less conviction. Way less conviction. Farming on Osmosis, no. Okay, I think that's about it. Is there any questions on Twitter? Hold up. Maybe not. No questions. Let's see on this. Okay, so I guess I kind of went through those questions pretty quickly. I think we're at this hour point. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I guess one thing I'll talk about before, as I wait for more questions, is if you think about the tokens that led the rally coming out of the June lows, it was Ether, obviously, it was Optimism, and it was Lido, right, coming out of the June lows, and also CRV. These tokens outperformed if you look at returns from the bottom. And obviously Optimism isn't doing that well, and I don't expect it to do that well. Maybe I'm too biased against it, but the tokens that are leading right now is CRV, right? CRV has reacted pretty positively from the lows. Maybe it's not too much, but Lido is also reacting positively, and also Arbitrum-based tokens. You can look at it on the left side here. Also reacted positively from, I guess, the June bottom, and they're also leading, right? GMX obviously super strong, so maybe this is a sign that if people are trying to go risk on, they're focusing on liquid staking derivatives, Arbitrum, and maybe CRV. CRV is kind of iffy. I mean, I do like CRV, obviously, right? Like, I would not own FXS and CVX if I didn't like CRV. But the tokenomics is good, right? And if you look at, let's see, DeFi Wars. Yeah, and maybe this isn't that useful, but like even, CVX has like the majority share. It's a kind of like, Lido taking like the majority of market share of like liquid staking derivatives, but CRV has a bunch. And if CRV has value, I think CVX has value. Who knows? I could be wrong on that. You never know. Yeah. So yeah. So where do I farm on Arbitrum? DYOR, but I'm farming on Plutus. I'm providing liquidity on Dopex here. The tokenomics here is kind of iffy, so it's not loading, right? I mean, do you run your research? If you filter for, there's like some massive unlocks happening right now, right? So if you just like filter for like larger cells, right? Like most of them are cells, right? So, these token unlocks are pretty unfavorable, I think. But I think it's pretty interesting. Trying to be the governance aggregator for Dopex ecosystem. And then I'm also farming vesting, Spirax on Arbitrum. There's a stablecoin farm. Liquidity is so super thin, so I wouldn't read too much into this pump, right? Like someone buys like $50 worth of it, and price goes up like 1%. So I'd rather just like farm this. That's kind of how I'm doing it, right? I'm just like keeping it simple, not complicating it. Still believe Cosmos is poo-poo. I never said Cosmos is poo-poo. I said the token value accrual is poo-poo. But Atom is doing pretty well, actually. I know there's interchain security, right? And as more consumer exchange launch, they can inherit security from Atom stakers, and Atom stakers will receive not only Atom, but also other tokens. But there's not that many consumer chains launching right now, so I do like the Atom ecosystem, though. I do think that lots of potential there, but it still fits in the alt L1 basket, so not too interested there, at least for now. Who knows? And if Atom pumps and I miss it, that's fine for me too. Have I looked into Vesta? Yes, it's a money market token. It's going to keep going down. Okay, I think that's it. 64-minute stream. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hopefully answered most questions. If you have any, give me feedback on the comment section. Like, do you want these fundamental updates? I'm like experimenting with like different types of live stream structures. We'll see if that works and whatnot, but I'll try to go with the flow. What? To what extent are you concerned about the Chinese economic collapse and contagion in the crypto market? Look, don't ask me that, okay? Dude, don't ask me that, right? Like, how the hell am I supposed to know what with the state of the Chinese markets, right? I mean, obviously, you know, they have the zero COVID policy, and you know, and like their economy isn't looking that hot, but you know, like if you're just scared about everything, right? Like just, I guess, I don't know, like don't buy crypto, right? Just, I don't know, like withdraw money from your bank and like stuff it in your bed, and just, like, I don't know, just like buy gold or something, right? Let's go full Peter Schiff, right? Like if you're scared about all that, go full Peter Schiff. Okay, I guess we'll end the stream on that depressing note. Have a good one, guys, and we'll see, right? Hopefully I don't get wrecked, and if I do get wrecked, I give everyone permission to troll me, and if I do not get wrecked and price goes up, then I will be euphoric, and you'll see my euphoria on the timeline. So bye bye.